Hello, lovely people. Welcome to the Bee's Knees. We have with us today Matthew Liam Gardner, my brother. How are you?
Hello, sister. Yeah, doing really, really good. Really grateful to be here.
Oh, as am I, as am I. So, you've got a pretty big adventure coming up, as I understand it.
I'm walking along the Spine of Albion, which is the entire length of Britain, straight up the middle, straight up the spine of the Isle, and it's about in 2 weeks I head down there. So I'm 2 weeks out from kind of beginning this journey, and it's going to be roughly 900 miles with all the kind of twists and the turns and the little, little side quests and all of that. So
Mhm.
yeah, a really big adventure, a big quest, a big pilgrimage, and a really big moment in life.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So what inspired you to do this?
Well, there's a lot of answers to that one question, Rebecca.
Mm.
There's a lot. There are a lot of answers, but the simplest one is that we just come to these moments in life where something compels us to do something that does not make logical sense or doesn't fit into this world that we can't justify to most people. Definitely can't justify it to our families. It kind of won't fit into their understanding, but we're compelled to do the thing. And to me, it's felt almost like divine intervention. It's felt like I've been guided, I've been called, I've almost received a sacred call in my inner world, and I've just had to answer and trust. And in some ways it is that's like the very me focused answer, and the kind of the purest answer is I've just been called to do a thing and I must do it. And in another layer, I feel like this is what it takes and asks of us to really be all the way in life.
Mm.
We are really asked, well, I'm really asked to give all of myself to life and to really be in the unfolding experience of life, really properly be invested in the unfolding journey of my life. And so this is like me diving all the way in. That's all the personal stuff. On a collective level, and I think this is what you're asking, is there is a I want to stir culture in the Western world. I want my grandkids to grow up in a world that has a cultural story that they're proud of, that has elders, that has uh, rich ritual practices, that has stories that continue on. And I don't hold it from like a super ungrounded place. It feels like I'm just coming from this is just what humanity is, what society is to have a rich culture and really strong relationships with each other, ourselves, and the living world around us. And that's kind of what culture is. It helps us have those relationships with ourselves, with each other, and the living world. And I just want that for my grandkids, for my kids, for myself. I just didn't get it. Neither did you. We've had to kind of improvise and somehow find our way through life to what beauty really is and what truth and love really is. And I think we're still learning those things, still refining over time. But I think it's the role of the adults and then the elders. And I think you and I are adults. I'm coming up to 40, Rebecca. So it's the next chapter of like kind of the beginning of Wise One is just around the corner for me. I'm really
Uh-huh.
present to it. And so I feel there's a responsibility to begin to stir the people, begin to stir the land, to begin to really advocate for something audacious. And in a sense, it's just naturally going to be like a land based, you could call it a Kundalini awakening. Sometimes that's a bit of a wanky language, but also it is that. It's a Kundalini massage. It's straight up the spine, straight up the
Yeah.
Kundalini. And there's going to be people walking with me. The grandmas are going to be singing. The uncles are going to be kind of coming along for days at a time. And it feels like something really old is being remembered here, and that I'm doing
Mm.
something that doesn't fit into this world, but is actually a natural part of what it means to rally the human family towards something beautiful. And then
Mm.
amongst all of that, Rebecca, like on top of all of that, it is a bit of a rite of passage. It is a bit of a rite of passage as my grandfather has just passed. So I'm now the oldest male in that family line. And I'm coming up to 40. I'm coming into my kind of middle years, and it's just a transitionary moment for me. They have rites of passage from boy to man, girl to woman. Although, I mean, we're supposed to. We don't do it very well, do we? They're slowly coming back. Don't worry. But what people don't normally know is that there's also many other transitionary moments through life that we have to honor and acknowledge. And if the society isn't grown enough to hold us in it, we have to do it ourselves.
Mm.
So I'm doing it myself. And the prayer in it all, I won't talk forever, my friend, don't worry. The prayer in it all is that like the big change here isn't even going to be from me doing this, and it's not even going to be this one. This is almost like this is going to be an example. And all the ones coming through right now, all the like those, coming through their 20s, coming into their 20s and through their 20s who are half a generation or a generation down from me, they're going to see me do this and they're going to go, holy hell, we're still doing that. We can do that.
It's what I'm watching and going, yes, yes, this is what we know as children. This
Mm,
is what we feel when we're little children interacting in the world. We are really, really connected with that. And as we grow up and we sort of go through go through society, that's what we lose sight of. And as like the Western world, that's what we've lost sight of. And I'm, really honored to be sat with you and to know you and to just experience that being blended back into our culture and into the generations again, so it can be
mm.
passed to our children.
Isn't it cool? Because it's if we look at it from a bird's eye view, because it's very easy to get caught up in the unfolding of it, but from a bird's eye view, we're literally watching the tangible renewal of culture and
Mm,
different beings in their own way devoting their lives or at least
mm.
moments like this is a season, this is a whole season, it's a 3 month thing at least,
Yeah,
like this whole thing.
yeah, yeah,
So we're literally witnessing cultural renewal. And for me, that feels like such a magical thing to get to watch a whole culture begin to get tickled and changed. It really excites me. And I feel so honored and privileged that we're alive in the challenging times we are, that
yeah.
we get, and you know what, but like the truth is no times other than these times would have called me forward to do something like this. Like I needed the world to be where it's at, the disconnect to
Mm,
be where only that
mm,
would have me go, oh, I better do something. So I
mm.
think we're also blessed by the challenge and blessed by the disconnect in some kind of wild roundabout way, because it's like it's calling us into ourselves and it's calling us to do what I don't think we would, if everything was rosy.
Yeah, definitely. Action is often inspired by pain, by anger, by frustrating frustration, by wanting things to change. And I think we are at a time where we collectively have recognized that there is a need for change. And some of those changes are new ones, new things that we've evolved to learn, and other ones are ancient rememberings, like what you're here teaching and reminding us of. I remember when I first met you, you were speaking about connecting with where we're from as well, and what is our knowing our river, knowing our mountain,
Mhm.
and having that really be a part of ourselves and who we are. And probably speak for most people, if not everyone, whether they know it consciously or not. That's a piece that is sort of missing. There's this hyper awareness that there's something missing, there's something else to know, to learn, to be connected with.
Mhm.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And it really warms my heart and gives me a really great hope hearing you be attuned to this. Um, I grew up with really present to how the Aboriginal elders in Australia. I'm Australian. If anyone hasn't caught onto that just yet, there's a twang. Deal with it. A universal twang. I like to imagine it as an accessible twang.
Mm,
But the Aboriginal elders, just in general, not like as a kid, it wasn't any specific elder. It was just how this thing was collectively held by the Indigenous Australians, the First Nations Australians, is they would say the white man's lost his belonging. The white
mm,
man has lost his belonging. And
mm.
back then, I it was just words, but there was something that just it stayed with me
It
for
resonated,
yeah, it
yeah.
resonated and something. And then I spent decades with it from like being a kid to a teenager
Mm.
to an adult and just it just stuck there inside me like a little seed, just kind of like continuing to just exist.
That makes sense, but we don't know why yet,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Yeah,
Mm,
I could feel something is there. And I think a lot of the time that's all we need. We just need to go, we don't need the answers. We don't need to stand in our certainty. We just need to go, something is there. And for me,
mm,
it was one of my something is there moments that cooked over decades. And what you were speaking about before with the river and the mountain, that's just part of my listening to the First Nations world, to how communities and cultures and people that have a rich and deep and developed, mature, you could say, relationship with the land and the ecosystems, how they relate to things. And it seems to echo it seems to be a common thread that there's a relationship with the mountain and the river and the ocean and that, even like down to particular animal totems and that sort of thing. And there's
mm.
just something in it. There's something in it. And yeah, I've just spent the last 5 years, like I went back to Australia 2 years ago and I walked my Mother River from the source to where I was born. And then when I turn like 80 or I get down the track and it starts to be a challenge to get out, I'm going to walk, which feels to me like, by the way, the source to where I was born, that feels like the arrival of the soul into the body, into the world, and then down to the
Mm,
birth point.
mm,
And I'm going to do the where I was born back out to the ocean um, later in life. And that's going to be my almost a self-created ritual rite of passage of like my soul moving on from this plane or from this body. And so I feel like if nothing else, one that gets to be an example for others for how we can be dreamers and creators of rites of passage. We just have to have the courage to get out there and actually live it and be like
mm.
dreamers living it, not just talking about it, but getting out there, bare, like dirty feet, like a bit of blood on
Yeah.
the knee, tripping over occasionally. We got to kind of get out there into it. But also, I hope that I genuinely believe that this is part of my role and part of anyone who has the listening and the willingness is role to begin to uncover and experiment, explore with the lost rites, the lost rituals. And for me, spending that time with my river it's like it's taught me about myself. I learned this. I built my relationship with the river. I know her spirit now. I
Mm.
know her. I can sing her song. Not all of it, but I can feel her song and I can feel her name. And this it's just part of the intimacy when we spend time with something to truly build a relationship with it and get to know it. So yeah, the walk along the spine of Albion, the up the center of Britain, is the continuation of this legacy, and it's like a 20 times, 30 times bigger task than walking my river. And it's a big one because I'm calling the tribes in as well. So that's kind of how it all fits together. And yeah, I'm glad that you're kind of singing the song with me and you hear the call as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it feels trying to think of the right word. It feels like it comes with a lot of respect
Mm,
because you're here, you're in the UK, and you're taking your time to get to know the waters of here,
mm,
and that's pretty big and pretty
mm,
honorable,
mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
yeah, I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, I don't know my waters, I don't know my rivers and the land as deeply as I'd like to. In fact, there's been a lot of fear around that, for
Mm.
me. So watching you do this and listening to why and the calling, but like your own reasons why, but the collective reasons why as well. It makes a lot of sense to me. It fills my heart with joy. It
Mm.
really does.
Mm.
Mm.
Thanks, sister. I think that fear is, or it's actually the complexity for most people, the complexity of family dynamics and the complexity of the state of our rivers. Like some people,
Mhm.
the river they were born beside is just like miles of rubbish and
Yeah.
used tires and syringes, and that's their mother river. And so what they do is they turn away from it. Or what kind of like the common world's act is to turn away from it, but it's actually an initiation to turn towards it, and
Do it.
and
Yeah.
to be cracked by the, like, to almost like be allowed to feel the agony for the state of what we belong to. The same way if like we had a brother or a sister that became disabled or was injured, or like we would be
In
cracked.
addiction or something like that, it's to
Exactly.
turn towards, to
Yes. It's the
not
yes.
deny.
We don't turn away from. It's a real mature act to like, because we have to be able to hold ourselves when we turn towards it. And I think that's part of the growing process, is like to really turn towards the state of things. Like my river, it wasn't just like, all a beautiful river like through the outback of Australia. I didn't do that. It didn't do it. There was platypuses and there was kingfishers at different points, and magical turtles and all of that. But also at points there were plastic bags and there were dead fish and there were farmers throwing chicken poo into the water. I'm trying to watch my language because of the podcast. Um, and and yeah, like that is the state of it. And I think even before we try to change that or advocate for a different way, that we just have to learn to be with the state of things. The same way we have to, if we have a disabled or like you said, addictions, like a family member in addiction, we have to learn to be able to breathe with that. We can't just click our fingers and change that. We have to be able to like look that in the eye and just be like, okay, I'm here. It's not
Yeah.
okay, but it's also okay. And we have to
Yeah.
find that place inside ourselves with the things that we belong to as well.
Mm. Yeah. Speaking from a place of having, like, I'm kind of on my journey out of addiction at the moment, with cannabis, because I think cannabis is a wonderful herb. It's a wonderful medicine, but it can also, be overused. It can be taken advantage of and stuff like that, even if it's not purposeful. Anything that we sort of become addicted to, they say that the substance is not the problem, it's actually the solution to the problem. It's the substance is actually what you're trying to use to solve the problem, but the problem is the avoidance of self.
Hmm.
It's not being able to look
Hmm.
in, at that deep level of pain that is represented and reflected back to us through our rivers, through our parts of nature that are full of rubbish and have been abandoned and mistreated and all of this stuff. It only reflects back the soul.
Yeah.
It only reflects back what is going on within each of us in different ways individually, but also collectively in and obviously each country, each part of the country is all in different states. They're all in different places within that journey.
Hmm.
And for me, like, I'm 11, 12 days clean of cannabis and tobacco now. I
Hmm.
don't drink either. Like, I do occasionally, like for celebrations and stuff, but that's been really difficult for me. It's
Hmm.
pushed me to have to look, to have to see and sit with that pain
Hmm.
and be with it,
Hmm.
and be with the ugliest parts of myself and love them
Hmm.
and accept them, to understand them and let them in. Why were you here? Why did this happen? It's okay that that happened. you're not a bad person, you know, to not let my mind spiral into guilt and shame and then ultimately end up back trying to grab at that solution,
Mm,
you know. That's the roots of addiction for me. And obviously, our society, that's what we're in. We're all in the throes of that in different ways. And
mm,
yeah, like you say, our rivers, our nature, it reflects that back to us. It's important that we
mm,
look at those things. We get in the water, get in it, you
mm,
know, get comfortable with getting in it. And then we can look at taking this piece of rubbish out,
mm,
then this piece,
mm,
then this piece
mm,
through love,
mm.
not through frustration,
Yeah,
not rushing to try and solve, to
yeah.
try and get rid of the pain, get rid of that feeling. No,
Mm.
we want to sit there, look at it directly, be with it, feel it, and tend to it like you would a garden.
Yeah, that's the word. I think that's the word. It's tending to. Yeah. It's the love. It's the love of tending to. I really like that.
Mm, mm.
I love that, by the way, Rebecca, and really feel you there. You sharing it has me just feeling I want to offer that. You know, addiction runs in like in my DNA. It's in my being. It's woven into all my charts, all my astrology and my gene keys. You can't get away from it. It's just like threads of addiction all around every corner, and it's definitely been my experience as well. I wasn't maybe one way to say it is I wasn't lucky enough to find my way to being addicted to a master teacher plant.
Well, yeah, you know,
Yeah, I mean it's got both sides, right? But
yeah.
anyway, my addiction was like food, and um, I used to like. I remember there was times in my early 20s, mid 20s, where I'd eat a like two whole 2 liter tubs of ice cream in a day, and like it was, and not all the time. I'd have these kind of pendulum swings, but what I'm saying is, I know addiction. I
Mm,
know it. It's never going to go away in my life. It's always going to be a presence of some kind with me to some extent. And what I've worked out, like it's been such a great teacher for me, and it's actually been addiction. Actually, was almost swinging the pendulum into addiction has been a massive part of what's initiated me into my. I mean, you could call it my mystic, my magic, my medicine, my listening. Like oftentimes mental illness or mental challenge is right there on the borderline with magic. Like some of the
yeah,
most like
yeah,
challenged people are also some of the most artistic, the most in contact with their medicine.
mhm,
Magic and madness is a very fine line. And I definitely have experienced that. But what I wanted to share is that my listening through that whole process has, the way that I relate to it now is that I was hungry for God. And
yes,
and whatever the thing is, the consumption, the taking, the overactive, this is like it's just my disconnect from God. It's my hunger for God. Where's God? I can't feel God. I'm not in contact with God, so I'm going to try and eat God. And so I'm literally eating God in his ice cream form, in her ice cream form. I'm taking God in, chomping away, swallowing God, having a moment of God, and then and
yeah,
yeah, so just acknowledging addiction as this hunger for God. And again, I can feel that you want to share something as well, but like this is what happens when we're not raised in a culture that initiates us into how to be human and how to have this divine relationship with life, this organic human relationship where we're in contact with the living God, with the natural God, the organic God, the God in all things. And because we're not taught, initiated, properly brought into that in a visceral way, we do our best to find it somewhere else. And oftentimes we go way over the line in doing that,
yeah,
way past the point of okayness. And I definitely did that myself.
yeah. I completely agree. I completely agree. It is our desperate desire to feel God, to feel the essence of the universe, to feel that connection that we know is there all the time.
Mm.
And that's even if you don't think about that consciously, subconsciously, that's what you're feeling. That's what you are knowing and in. I believe that most people are, you know, addicted to something. We each try to fill that void. We try to satiate that need
Mm.
again and again, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, sex,
Mm.
social media, like whatever it is, we're all trying to connect back to that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it seems like there's almost a rush as well. It feels like there's a rush to have to do that or to have to be connected to that all the time. When what I feel, what was it? My speaking to my grandma the other day, and she had a favorite verse from the Bible. I'm not familiar this deeply with the Bible, but it was something like, I will never abandon you nor forsake you. And that really resonated with me, because even when we can't feel God, when we can't feel that connection, it's always there. It's always there. And we are now collectively finding new tools, or ancient tools, in fact, to reconnect with that, rather than red herrings, you know, rather than false prophets and stuff like that. We can feel the difference as well,
Yeah.
because one feels sustainable and the other one doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell me
One
more?
one breathes life into you, and energy, and you can feel that pulse of that energy, the pull, the desire, the joy, the wow, the euphoria that comes with that. And the other, it doesn't. You don't feel that. You may get it for a little bit, like doing cocaine or something. I've never personally done it, but I've been around a lot of people who have been addicted to different things and whatnot. There's the come down. When you get addicted to life and God and the earth net, the earth's energy, you don't get the come down. In fact, each time you maybe disconnect a little bit from that, you smile and giggle, because you know that you're going to be connected to it again soon. There isn't this terrible, like, daunting feeling of the world crashing around you, or at least that feeling, for me, has lessened and lessened as I've connected back to this universal life force, you know?
Yeah.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah. All that.
All that.
Yeah. You know what? It stirs for me is it just naturally hearing you share there. It raises for me the difference for me between gurus and elders, and
Mm.
the difference between someone who sits on a metaphorical throne and speaks the concepts, and then the one who gets in amongst the tribe and the family and is imperfect and has snot on their face or in their beard, and like they're a bit angry sometimes. They're not like just like a spiritually like perfect being because they're so removed and kind of in their own safe field. And yeah, to me, it feels a lot like this same principle of like gurus and elders, where one kind of teaches the concepts, and the others are like living examples, and
Mm.
one is removed and kind of like pointing at something, the other is in and being the thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're transitioning, we're kind of transitioning out of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. And as part of that, it's less about the one at the front and more about the all kind of holding, everyone coming into their seat, everyone coming into their place and their voice and their call for everyone else, that their call for the human family, their advocacy and their magic and medicine. So yeah, and everything you're sharing there feels like that's what really lights me up these days. Not kind of having someone who, like, turning towards someone who has all the knowledge, but literally watching someone who dives into their humanity, and
Mm.
they're willing to be raw. They're willing to be like in the imperfectness of relating and relationship, and and equal power dynamics, or if not equal, then at least not power over power dynamics, but like really foundational thriving dynamics that really honors all the beings, rather than one being having the answers, the others listening to those answers. The evolutionary consciousness that evolves by all of us contacting each other and being contacted by each other. That's the Aquarian age. That's what we're transitioning into as we move out of the Piscean age, out of the one master into the all masters, or all grown ones, out of the one grown one to the all grown ones. Probably the cleanest way to say it. So, yeah, you feel me?
Oh, wow. I think, you and I, we're both Aquarians, right? So,
Well,
w-
actually, I have to confess, I'm a Capricorn sun and an Aquarian moon. So
okay.
I'm very cuspy. I am Aquarian Vedically.
So I don't know about my crossovers or anything. I know that I'm Aquarius. Like that's about as far as my knowledge goes with that. But if you don't mind, I would love to share a story of like when we first met and how we connected, because I feel like that was a great example of what you were just saying. Um, so I remember tripping, being with myself in the middle of a room, and I was really going through it mentally. When we first met, you were the first face that I saw when I arrived at the retreat at Real Awake. Um, Comforting voice, comforting eyes, big hello, would you like a hug? I'm here, you're here, let's do this sort of thing. And later on, I can't remember whether it was the first day or maybe it was sort of a few days into the experience, but I was really going through it emotionally. I'd had some mushrooms. I needed to be on my own. I remember lying in the middle of the room, putting a blanket over me, and everybody else was chatting and dancing and doing their different things. And I just felt I really, really, really need a masculine here with me right now, but not somebody who's overpowering me, not someone who has any kind of agenda, nothing like that, just pure masculine energy. My heart desperately needed it. And I turned my head, I was bawling with tears. I pulled down the blanket from my face just to hear, open my eyes, and straight in front of me, you were the only person in the room, and you were right in front of me. And I didn't say anything, and you didn't say anything. And you walked over to me, you scooped me up in your arms, you held me as I was just breaking down like a child. I was really letting go of so much, just bawling my eyes out, crying, snot everywhere. You were wiping snot from my nose and my face with your hands. You were just, I've got you, sister. I've got you, sister. You were just there in the experience with me, just holding me purely there. You weren't trying to talk me out of my feelings. You weren't trying to help me to talk through them or anything like that. You were just there with me. And I sorely, sorely needed that. And I remember later on in that day, you'd then gone through something yourself, like emotions had arisen for you during a conversation that was going on. And then you asked for my presence, and I was able to be there with you, just with no intentions, just be there with you with what you were feeling. Yeah, of course, like I'll be here. I'm here. I'm with you. that for me was the perfect example of what you were just speaking about, being there and raw and in it and in the emotions with no expectation of understanding it all in that moment or having to move through it or whatever. And there's a lot of that gets pushed in this kind of spiritual world, as you know, I'll let it go, work through it, whatever. But that for me was just really, really profound. And I do believe that we are moving into the age of teaching by being, because you can't teach those whose ears aren't open either with words. You can't.
Yeah.
We're all here trying to, there's lots of people explaining things in different ways, and that's great, and we do need information. It's good for us to absorb the information, to listen to one another, to transfer those bits and bobs. But when you meet someone in their feeling, in their need, in their presence, in their reality in that moment, that teaches more than anything ever could. There's a song, I think it's called Bashed Out, and she says, "Blessed are those who see and are silent." And that really resonated with me, and kind of like what you were saying earlier, I haven't really understood why. But I think this is why, is because it's not about words. It's about the presence, the being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
That was such good medicine for both of us, I think. That those ways of meeting each other, just because it's love, it's love that breaks the spell. It is, and forever will be only love that breaks the spell, and only love that we need. And for me, part of the reason why it's not so much about words, at least in this age, is because we're not very good yet at doing love in words. There are beings who can, and both you and I can touch that place. Like we have moments where the love fills the words and not the instruction, not the teaching, although sometimes it takes those forms, but
Yeah.
the rawness of like true love that lives in the words, and the authenticity that lives in the love, like the love that doesn't point, but the love that is truly touched itself. When we're truly touched and we're in our love and we're in our passion and our fierceness and our cracked open rawness, along with our innocence, just our humanity, just pure humanity, that is a kind of love that breaks the spell and really contacts other beings and ourselves. When we contact ourselves, we contact each other. But I really hear you in that the love of these times and the spell breaking of these times, and the thing that's really needed, the true leadership of this age, is the leadership of being. We've finally, after all of the Industrial Revolution, after hundreds of years of building all sorts of mechanical and technological things, we're finally starting to come back to, I just have to be.
Be.
Yeah, it's have to be Galvin. We just have to be ourselves and be the love that we are, and not and grow to be able to wear our love on the surface. I think that's the part of the maturing of this age, to not just have, because all of us, we all have that kind of flicker or the flame or the bonfire, however big it is inside us, that flame of love and that desire for all of us. Some people give up, but the love is still there. That kind of knowing is still there. But I think the growing is for that flame of love to live on the surface, and for that purity, because flame, it's a very purifying force. It burns away, it unmakes things, it alchemizes, transforms wood from one state to another. It's a very purifying force. And yeah, when we get to wear that on the surface, that is the beingness, that is radical love, that is change. And yeah, so mainly just saying that I do think that words have a place, but we have to be real with ourselves about what it takes for our words to truly be love. And it takes a
Mm,
lot, I think, a lot of willingness to put all of ourselves on the table, not just the best bits, but
mm.
the broken bits and the all the little parts of our humanity exactly as we are, where we are. Here it is. Whew, and then the words begin to be a love that breaks the spell.
Oh, I hear you. I do. I really hear you. To lead on from that, like you said, there's a difference between somebody pointing and telling and being in it with you. We are all here in human form on the physical plane to experience the human experience, and particularly in these spiritual settings, it's almost glorified to not feel stuff. It's almost being glorified to be the one that's all love and light all the time, and that's all you preach, and you don't show any of your dark side, your shadow, your anger, your pain. And there's this almost uh really twisted illusion and desire to like transcend our human self, when actually that's what we're here to be. And I think, you were speaking before about like monks with Seema, and you're like, I don't get it. What are they doing? I don't really understand, because they're not there in it with you. And the whole point is that the reason that we are here as humans is to be in that human experience. And the thing that makes us human is our emotions, our feelings, and being with those, and being able to be with those with others as well. There's not a lot of space being made for pain and for anger and for all of those things. And don't get me wrong, we shouldn't dwell there. We shouldn't dwell in any particular feeling. The beauty of the human experience is flowing through all of them together. And when you decide to try and put yourself on this pedestal, like you said, of having transcended the human experience, look, I'll tell you how to live. This is how you should live. This is how you should do it. This is how you transcend all that. It's like, are we even supposed to?
Yeah.
Because stuff's going to happen through your life. You're going to get past one bit of pain, and then another tragedy will happen, another thing will go on. But it's how you are able to be with that, like bringing it back to the rivers and looking and turning towards. How are we able to truly be with that, with ourselves and with others, rather than falling into this illusion of transcending it? Because I don't think that ever happens.
Yeah. 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 Oh, I got so much to speak to here. This is my game, sister. This is my
Yeah.
good place. I love that. You're doing really well, holding this and facilitating this conversation. Can I share some of my thoughts?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just feeling my natural, like feeling you kind of tickle parts of me that want to like speak and dance with you in this dialogue. It's really interesting. Whatever society in general rejects, denies, turns away from, isn't able to look in the eye, my being, for whatever reason, is naturally drawn there.
Drawn to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm naturally drawn to not just to look at it, but to fully embody it in a uncomfortable and often radical way. But I say
Yeah.
radical, but radical in this age, things that are radical are often just normal humanity that's been forgotten, But
Yeah.
that's radical. It's just what it means to be human, but we've
Yeah.
forgotten that. you know, you could say that birth is radical, like the actual process of a woman birthing a child being born like magic, in being grown like magic inside and then being born into the world, blood and mucus and like
It's not pretty.
organs. It's not pretty. It's super old school magic, you know, like and so things that are innately human are not necessarily clean and clear and beautiful, but they're magical and they're rich and they're real and they are a privilege. And yeah, I those all those parts of society that people turn away from or they reject, deny. I like to hang out there. Like I like to explore, you know, like all
The little gremlin
the little
inside us all
yeah
that's like
archetypes,
just
the
walking
witches, you
along
know.
like, oh,
Yeah, I like to
you
explore.
know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And I like to really build my relationship with those parts of creation because guess what? If you can't love the wronged, if you can't love the rejected, if you can't learn the secret magic that lives in the thing that everyone's been turned away from, everyone said, that's wrong. I'm not going to build my relationship with that. If we can't learn the secret magic that lives there, then we can't remember the fullness of our humanity. Because all those little wronged, rejected places, they are, okay, I'm going to get super woo woo for a moment. All those wronged, rejected places, they are secret lineages that the world has turned away from. They are the lineages of the gargoyles. People point at gargoyles and say, demon, because they're ugly and they're. Ugh. But the gargoyles are the protectors, the guardians. They're a dense matter. They have bared teeth, you know? Like, you can't point at a lion and say, you're wrong. Lion is wrong. Lion's not wrong. Lion is magic, fierce, beautiful, primal. It like lion holds the kind of some of the original keys of primordial earth still in its kind of dripping salivated mouth. Like, ugh. Lion is teacher, gargoyles teacher, all these parts of creation we wrong, reject, turn away from. They hold a medicine. That's not to say that some things aren't awful or really immature, really ungrown. Ungrown things, the same as like if you put a 12-year-old in power, they are sharp. They're dominating. They don't know how to do the thing, so they destroy. And so all the sharp parts of creation, the rejected parts, the parts that are too dark to look at or be with, they are the parts that just need the love and compassion and attention to mature, not into something that we can make sense of, not into something that we understand. Like those parts of creation, they're not supposed to grow into what we know they're supposed to grow into. They're supposed to grow into something that we don't understand, we don't know, and we're actually taught by what lives in those parts of creation. Addiction teaches us. Addiction initiates me into having the courage and the willingness and having spent enough time in the filth and the shake of myself to be willing to do a genuine 3-month rite of passage, calling the communities with me. You know, they are initiatory forces. They're just dressed in skins that we don't understand, and they're at a developmental age that we're not attuned to. So I deeply and profoundly love the parts of creation that everyone else turns away from. Not everyone else, but you know, the world turns away
yeah.
from. And I listen there, and I listen, and those parts are my teacher. They're my teachers, and they are my initiators, and they are the very things that I have to grow enough to be able to hold and look in the eye and be with and breathe with and remember that that isn't outside me, that is inside me. That, like those tires in the river, like you're saying before, that's not out there, that's inside me. Those politicians that are like doing a job that I'm not okay with, and that lives inside me too. And I can't just point at the politicians. I have to go out there and be the example and not just say, you have to change. I have to change. You have to do things better. I have to do things better. How are they supposed to change and do things miraculously well if I can't change and really meet life? Yeah, so that's my prayer and my intention in my life is to spend my life as best I can doing the things that when I go to point outside myself, I turn the finger back around and point at myself and go, all right, okay, I'll go first. I'll go first, and maybe they'll follow. Maybe the politicians will follow this example, or maybe the next generation of them might have a whisper of what this walk is, just somewhere in their psyche and their unconscious. It just might live there in some little back corner that changes the direction of things to come. Yeah, and I think that's a really good challenge. That the things we want to point at get to come back and be like, oh, here, not wronged but claimed, not othered but owned.
Mm.
That.
I love that. I love that. And I completely, completely agree. I think we're all, like a tourist field.
Mm.
We're all a tourist field. We're all that one center point. And we're in a center point as well, which is also in a center point, which is also in a... And it just does this. It always comes back round to that center point, whatever it is. And it's interesting that this has come up again, because in one of my other podcasts from the other day, I think it was just me chatting with myself, this subject came up about how actually the horrible things that are going on right now is just a path that has been taken and is now being realized that this isn't the way to do that. But there needs to be an example of teaching by being, like doing things like what you're doing and what others are doing. More and more people are lighting up with this right now. We teach by being. We're not supposed to demonize them and try and fight it and try and pull these systems down and tear them apart out of fear. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to lead by example. The masses, we're supposed to keep leading by example and show them they made a mistake. You've made some mistakes. Like, this isn't the way. I can understand why you thought that might be the way, because a child tries to dominate. A child tries to dominate to gain power, to feel security. That's not the way. We need to reparent. We're going through a reparenting of humanity, and like you say, it always comes back around. And so, though these people are older generations, you're going to be taught by the younger generations, and then we will have babies and we will teach them love and feed them love, and then ultimately they will come back round and go, oh, you did this wrong, and then teach us, and it just keeps doing that.
Yeah.
It just keeps on doing that.
Yeah, I call a version of that generational leadership, where the listening needs to be in both directions, both towards the elders and which are the ancients, and towards the those coming through, which are the emergent. So we have emergent consciousness seated in the living DNA and auric field of those being born, and we have the ways of doing things that have been learnt and established, like what we've worked out so far, kind of being held by those who are older or have lived much life. And the listening needs to be in both directions. And the best elders, the most grown elders, are the ones who don't just like instruct with law, but they also deeply listen and say, okay, tell me what you hold. Tell me what comes with you. Like, what has arrived here with you? And so they listen deeply to those who are generations below them, beneath them, younger than them. I love it. It's some of my favorite parts of creation because it's been so deeply forgotten in the fabric of our world. And I really believe that what you were speaking to about, not kind of fighting the system, but being an embodied example of a different way. I really love that. I believe with every fiber of my being that there is a grassroots renaissance that is rippling around the Western world right now, a remembering of humanity, and it's taking in all its forms and flavors and stages all at once. Like you were saying, a whole big portion of this renaissance are those who have come into their consciousness, awakened to their light and their power and their divinity, but aren't still afraid to look into the dark, into the cave, still afraid to enter into the true mystery and give themselves to the unmaking that is the kind of the great feminine force that grows us in as matter beings on Earth. And so we're in all sorts of different stages. Some people are just hanging out in the dark. They're properly in the initiations of the dark, and they've forgotten their divinity, their dignity, or maybe they haven't forgotten it, but it's not there. They're not developed in that part of themselves. We're all at different stages, but there is a grassroots renaissance, and it's taking place in living rooms, in drum circles, in ceremonies, in podcast conversations. It is in friendship groups, in families. It's a very real thing that is here. Like we are. It's not shattered from the rooftops. We are alive in a time of civilization restructuring, and we are part of an actual renaissance that hundreds of years from now, they will look back on and name as a renaissance or a resurrection, a time of remembering that is equal to, if or more than any other moment in history. You know, we really are right up there with all of the Dreamtime stories right now. It doesn't look like it because we're so conditioned to kind of see this as our boring, lives with our cars and our rooms and our sofas and our like juices, but this is, we are in a time equal to any dream time in the great cycles of Earth right now. And for me, that's an adventure and a privilege, and it's really exciting because it kind of tells me that we're properly in the game right now. And if we want to be properly in like the game, we're living a kind of story and a level of life right now. We're able to live a level of life right now that has us properly in the story of Earth. Like properly in the legendary story of Earth. Don't talk to me about Genghis Khan, like bow a big bow to all the masters of the past. They're all kind of with us, but like we're here right now, and we're like, we're doing
We're on the
it right
leading
now. It's
edge
like this is right here, right now. You know that song, right here, right now. This is it.
right now,
Yeah,
right here.
this is it right here, and we are the ones, and that's not to dishonor anything that's been before or anything that's yet to come. It's just, here we are. You're adults now. Game on. Like
Go,
yeah, go. Like,
play,
what
do
do you got? What do you got? What are you willing to meet? And how much love are you prepared to live in your life? How much courageous love are you prepared to live in your life? I love it. To me, it feels so rich and real and inviting into the adventure of this existence. That oftentimes people point to the distant past and say, that's where the real adventure was. I was born out of my time. I wasn't born in the moment I was supposed to be born. I used to say this. I wasn't born in. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. It's not that you weren't born in the time you were supposed to be born, Matthew. It's that you have to see this moment for what it is and meet it for who you truly are. And that's going to take everything that you have inside you to have the courage to do what the world doesn't understand and to continue anyway. Whoa. So something like that.
something like that. Exactly that. Exactly that. We're evolutionary beings. It's natural that in the now, like every day, we've evolved a bit further and a bit further and a bit further. And every generation, a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. There is such a huge amount of lack consciousness, but how can lack that? It doesn't exist. It can't. It's something that we convince ourselves of, or that's been programmed into us, to keep us down or keep us evolving at a slower rate, when actually there isn't lack. There's more every day, more and more and more all the time. And it's right there for you in every breath, in every moment. It's right there for us. Potential is just there.
I think it takes a real developed listening and attuning to the different kinds of abundance, because I think in different cycles of Earth, the kinds of abundance that we have can be different. You know, sometimes there's an abundance of trees. Other times there's an abundance of ability to reach everyone on earth with a couple of like digits, a couple of like, you know, pressing of buttons and press and like sending out into the collective airwaves. There's just different kinds of abundance. And I don't know if we've been really good at attuning to and appreciating really. Look at me. I'm like getting revolutionary here. Getting the fist up.
We are. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing, though. We're on the edge of like the
That's
revolution.
it. That's it. Well, I
Yeah,
think we're like, you know, we're about, and we're elbow deep inside it is one way to say it.
yeah, yeah. We're living it,
Yeah, we're absolutely living it right here with it,
rebirthing, literally pulling the new earth out of the womb.
while also being the baby being contorted as we come
Like,
down the birth canal and like
yeah,
vomiting and unable to breathe and, you know, covered in someone else's blood, you know,
yeah,
all of it all at once.
yeah. Wow, wow. Well, yeah, we've definitely put the world to rights there, haven't we?
Yeah. So if everyone can just do that, that would really help. Whatever we've
Yeah,
said,
just do
just
that.
let's just do that.
Yeah, super easy. Just do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what we can begin with though is um, having big conversations like these. I really appreciate the opportunity to have these big conversations and to touch these places. This is part of my personal commitment woven into my devotional journey along the spine of Albion to have the big conversations and also to begin to yeah, like look at ourselves and just get honest, get really honest. I feel like that's part of this as well. It's not just the big conversations and all that kind of like the shouting from the rooftops excitement stuff. It's also the honest conversations all woven together. I think that's exactly where we're at. So I love that way that you've gone that way with this podcast and this series you're doing,
Mm.
because it feels really human and I really stand for it. And the other way that people can kind of like get into these things, other than having these big conversations with you and with me or wherever they're engaging us, is to come and walk a little bit with me. Come walk
Yeah.
some miles. You know, if you're listening to this sometime in early 2025, come walk some miles with me up the spine of Albion. Be a part of that Kundalini tickling of an entire mass of land and an entire people. And yeah, your presence and your support would be so valued, and your energy body with me would feel really yeah, would be well received.
Hmm. I love that. I love that you welcome people along with you. I hope that people do choose to join you as well. I certainly would. Like, whereabouts did you say you were going to be? Around Oxford?
Yeah, so I'm starting in Isle of Wight. So on day one, I've got two friends. One is I call him Brunkle because he's half brother and half uncle,
Oh
Brunkle
God.
Benjamin, and my brother Dan, whose family has lived on the Isle of Wight for 5 generations. So day one, they're walking with me, and for the first 8 miles at least, as just to get to the start. We're going to walk for 8 miles from the very south of Britain to the very start at Culver Downs in the Isle of Wight. Then they'll go back to their hotel, and I'm gonna walk my ass off across the Isle, across the Isle of Wight, and then we're gonna stay in Southampton the first night. The next day, that hit those two, and another one will walk with me. There's about 25 people who've said they want to walk with me at different points. It's just building. I haven't even started yet, and it's people are revealing themselves. And there's a baby that's going to walk with me just north of
Mm.
Manchester. You know, sorry, obviously the baby won't walk, but the mother and the baby, you know, Athena, Ray and Athena are going to be there with me, moving along the spine at one point. And yeah, it's just really human and not perfect and not clean. And people are going to walk for multiple days with me, and they'll have to hear me snoring at night, and there'll be times when we can't find places to put the tent down, and we'll be like, we're in the middle of suburban like Oxford, where the hell do I put this tent down? And I'm going to have to solve that problem. Other times where we're going to be walking and there's going to be nothing but road for days. You know, not beautiful nature. You know, not like pristine Mount Scottish Highlands. road.
road. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just all part of the accepting of it. So, but for you, if you're in London, somewhere around Oxford, you know what? I'm going to do an Oxford brunch, I think. I'm going to do a brunch in Oxford. As I'm coming through, I'm just going to be like, okay, everyone, come have brunch with me in Oxford tomorrow, and people, or in 3 days' time, and people will come and we'll have some brunch and have some big conversations together. And yeah, it's not just walking with me; it's also these brunches and these community conversations I'll be having along the way. So yeah, if you can come along, there's no pressure to. I really appreciate your championing through this podcast and just in your support in all the spaces. But yeah, if you can, come join us in some way.
I'd love to. I have a friend in Oxford that I'd love to go and stay with as well, and I'm sure she would love to be a part of this and walk with you as
Perfect.
well.
Perfect.
It's all part of our journey together.
Mhm.
We never know what challenges that might come up that we have to face that, and it just creates space for you to really have those challenges and then surprise yourself having gotten through them. And there'll be lots for you, I imagine, in, like you say, in all different ways, and you will be a completely rebirthed by the end of it.
Yeah.
um I look forward to, hopefully, if you're up for it, doing another podcast, like when I meet you somewhere there. We'll do it, perhaps a shorter one, and then at the end as well, whenever you'd like, after you've maybe had some time to integrate and just process your journey and everything that came along with it. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you this evening, and I can't wait to follow you on this journey and to be with you. My heart and mind will be with you through it all.
Yeah, I feel you with me, sister, and very grateful for you. And I will absolutely take the opportunity to speak here again and to join you again on the journey if we can, and afterwards as well, if it plays out that
Yeah,
way. Yeah, that'd be an honor.
yeah, it would be lovely. It'd be great. Oh wow, leading edge stuff. So, do you have a GoFundMe
I do. I do.
page?
I think the best thing people can do is just find me on YouTube, and all of the links are on YouTube. And I feel the best thing that people the easiest way to support this is to follow along, to watch the videos because they have so much of the messaging and the my excitement and my I'm going to be sharing my breakdowns and my
Mm.
and my like proper like in the thick of it kind of experiences. I think I will anyway.
There's,
So
there's
yeah,
snot on your nose.
exactly. If they follow me on YouTube, all the links are there, and my YouTube is just YouTube / at Matthew Liam Gardner, or just search Matthew Liam Gardner.
Wonderful. So you've got are you going to be uploading on Instagram and Facebook as well?
Yeah, I won't. YouTube's the main place. Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook, I'll just have a gentle presence throughout
Yeah.
the journey. But yeah, just little things like Instagram will have some photos along the way. Facebook's a bit more of like a family, kind of like my peers, and that's how I experience it. So I'll just be a little bit. I'll be doing more posts and the occasional like, "Hey, come! You haven't. No one's liked my video."
Go and
Like,
like my video. Do
"Hey, come
it.
on now,"
Yeah.
little like, "Hey, family, come on, what are you doing?" Those kind of
Sure.
moments. Yeah, no, YouTube's definitely the place to be a part of it all. And oh, I do have a supporters group on Facebook too. So
Okay.
that's just if people search Raising Albion, there's a Raising Albion supporters group because that's the name of this mission, Raising Albion. It's pretty like audacious. I want to raise Albion. Albion is the first recorded name applied to these isles. And for me, I did a video about it today that's going to be released tonight, hopefully. It is the soul. Albion kind of bows to the soul of these lands and the
Mm.
soul of these people. And so we're stirring the soul of these lands and the soul of these people and raising Albion. We're not kind of like renaming everything to Albion. It gets to still be Britain, but it's the people of Britain also get to know and relate to themselves as also the people of Albion. And yeah, that's woven into this as well, that prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm. Ah, when?
Ah, bloody when.
All right. Well, so all the links and everything will be in the description below. Yeah, thank you for being here today. It's been an absolute pleasure, my brother. Yeah, take care, everybody. Like, comment, share, hit that subscribe button, and just be, baby.